The council hall of the Galactic Empire was a cathedral of steel and light, its vaulted ceiling glittering with the banners of conquered worlds. War trophies lined the walls. Armor of vanquished species, captured weapons, even the petrified remains of defiant leaders. On this day, however, the trophies weren't enough to hold the council's attention. All eyes were fixed on the holographic display at the center, a rotating sphere of pale blue and white. Earth. General Kether leaned forward, his armored gauntlets scraping against the obsidian table. This primitive world is what stands in our path. The reports speak of nothing but ice, wind, and scattered human settlements. We've crushed fleets that spanned entire galaxies. This will be no different. Murmurs of amusement rippled through the chamber. The Empire's war machine had steamrolled across dozens of systems, each conquest adding to their confidence. Earth's tundra, vast, white, and unbroken, looked harmless to them. At the far end of the table, Admiral Ryvek, the youngest of the High Command, smirked. They call their units Tundra Special Forces. His tone dripped with sarcasm. A handful of soldiers hiding in snow drifts, wrapped in animal skins. This is their defense? I almost feel insulted. The chamber erupted in laughter. Tactical overlays appeared, maps of Arctic and subarctic regions, dotted with scattered human outposts. Recon footage showed soldiers in white ghillie suits, half buried in snow, their rifles camouflaged. To the Empire, they looked like relics of an outdated era. Yet, at the edge of the room, one figure didn't laugh. Strategist Kalen, a veteran of the Empire's oldest campaigns, studied the display in silence. His voice, when he spoke, was measured. Underestimating an enemy because their weapons look crude is how empires bleed. Cold is a weapon. Terrain is a weapon. We've seen this before. Kether waved off his caution. Your age has made you cautious, Kalen. These humans rely on terrain because they have nothing else. We will melt their ice, sweep them aside, and claim their world. The decision was unanimous. The Empire's fleets would descend on Earth's polar frontiers. It was supposed to be a display of dominance, a swift crushing of resistance that would humiliate the planet into submission. The first deployment came at dawn over the tundra. Carriers cut through thin, freezing air, releasing waves of mechanized infantry. Empire troops in sleek black armor disembarked with precision, their plasma rifles gleaming in the pale light. They expected an empty wasteland. The ambush was their first surprise. A squad moving across a snow ridge found itself under fire from nowhere, rifle cracks muffled by the wind. Soldiers fell, armor punctured by rounds that seemed to come from the ice itself. Snipers, invisible against the white expanse, had chosen their positions perfectly. Commander VRYNN, leading the first company, barked orders. Thermals on, scanned for movement, but the readings were useless. The extreme cold masked heat signatures. Targets appeared for only seconds before vanishing again. Over the course of 2 hours, the Empire secured the ridge, but not without casualties. It was more resistance than they'd expected, though still nothing they considered significant. They sent back footage of the encounter, framing it as proof of human desperation, snipers hiding in the snow rather than facing them openly. The propaganda machine went to work instantly. Holo news across the Empire showed clips of white-clad figures retreating into blizzards, their silhouettes barely visible. Commentators mocked the snow ghosts, claiming Earth's warriors hid in frozen holes because they feared direct engagement. The message was clear. Earth's tundra defenses were laughable. But on Earth, in the freezing barracks dug into permafrost, the Tundra Special Forces watched those broadcasts with grim satisfaction. Captain Elena Vorsk, their commander, stood at the edge of the room, arms crossed. Her team was small, but every soldier was hardened by the most brutal environment on the planet. They think this is all we have, she said, her breath fogging in the cold air. Let them. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Arkady, grinned beneath his frostbitten beard. They're going to be very disappointed. Across the frozen battlefront, skirmishes continued. The Empire pressed forward with overwhelming numbers, pushing human forces back step by step. But the Tundra Special Forces weren't meant to hold ground. Their job was to make the Empire believe they were seeing the full extent of Earth's defenses, and nothing more. The plan worked. Within weeks, the Empire declared the polar resistance broken. Publicly, they celebrated a swift victory. Privately, the High Command barely registered the operation as anything more than a minor inconvenience. In the council hall, Kether addressed the Emperor. "The tundra is ours. The humans are finished. The rest of the planet will fall just as easily." The Emperor's voice was smooth and certain. "Then move south. Secure the equatorial regions. End this war." It was the south where things began to change. Intelligence suggested the human command had withdrawn key assets to the jungles, dense, humid, and impenetrable to satellites. Empire scouts reported no heavy fortifications, no mass troop movements, nothing that resembled a significant defense. Admiral Rivek scoffed when the reports were read aloud. "More shadows and hiding places. The humans think they can exhaust us with terrain. The jungle will be no different from the tundra." In her barracks deep beneath the frost, Captain Vorsk listened to intercepted transmissions. Her expression darkened as she heard the Empire's laughter. They didn't understand what was waiting for them in the green depths. "Are they moving in?" Arkady asked. Vorsk nodded. "They think we're all here, freezing in the snow. But the jungle units, they've been waiting." Arkady chuckled, a low sound that held no humor. "Those poor bastards have no idea what they're walking into." On the Empire's flagship, Kether stood at the observation deck, watching troop transports prepare for atmospheric entry. He imagined the swift collapse of resistance, the jungles burning away in plasma fire. There was no doubt in his mind. Earth would be conquered within a month. He didn't notice Kalen watching quietly from the shadows, his eyes fixed on the planet's green equator. The strategist had seen too many wars to ignore the feeling gnawing at him. "Jungles," he murmured under his breath, too softly for anyone to hear. "We've bled in jungles before." As the transports descended into the thick, humid air of Earth's equator, the soldiers aboard joked about the ease of their mission. The tundra had been cold and uncomfortable, but at least it had been predictable. The jungle, they thought, would be warm and straightforward, an environment to be cut down, cleared, and pacified. But the humans they would meet there were not hiding. They were waiting, and they were hunting. The jungle greeted the Empire with a wall of heat and noise. As soon as the troop transports descended, the air turned heavy, clinging to armor plates and seeping into every joint and seam. Vines thick as cables hung from towering trees, their leaves broad enough to shield a man from the sun. Every inch of the ground was alive, roots twisted into knots, wet moss concealed uneven footing, and the smell of damp earth and decay clung to everything. Commander VRY Nin, still recovering from the Tundra campaign, scanned the dense canopy with thinly veiled irritation. Visibility is useless. Comms are already degraded. It's a forest, not a battlefield. Admiral Rivek's voice crackled through the comms. "You're soldiers of the Empire. Clear it. The humans cannot hide forever." That assumption was the first mistake. As squads advanced, cutting their way through the undergrowth, the jungle swallowed them whole. Sound was distorted, distant calls of birds, sudden rustles in the foliage, the constant hum of insects. The Empire's scanning drones zipped ahead, but their feeds were interrupted by static and strange interference. The thick humidity fogged lenses, fried circuits, and dulled sensors. Private Lenvar swatted at a vine brushing against his shoulder and froze. The vine wasn't attached to the tree. It slid back silently, as if retreating into the foliage. His breathing quickened, but before he could warn the others, a sharp snap echoed in the distance. One of the forward scouts vanished, dragged into the greenery without a sound. "Contact!" VRYN barked, but there was nothing to see, just leaves swaying and branches creaking. The first human strike was surgical. A sniper round cracked through the canopy, punching into an officer's visor. Before the squad could react, two more soldiers dropped, one to a tripwire-triggered spike trap, another to a burst of suppressed fire from nowhere. The attackers remained invisible. In the treetops, Sergeant Vale of the Jungle Special Forces moved with ghost-like precision. Her ghillie suit blended with the foliage, woven with real leaves, moss, and strips of camouflage fabric. Even her rifle was wrapped, the barrel extending like a shadow among branches. She didn't need to see faces. Movement patterns told her everything. 3 down, she whispered in her throat mic. Her voice was nearly inaudible, masked by the hum of the jungle. Her response came from somewhere below. Copy. North flank ready. The Empire's squads tried to regroup, but the terrain betrayed them. Their armor, perfect for open-field combat, snagged on vines and sank into mud. Their rifles were powerful, but heavy and poorly suited for tight, unpredictable ambushes. VRYNN ordered flamethrowers deployed, and the soldiers began burning swaths of foliage to flush out enemies. For a moment, it seemed effective, until smoke mixed with the humid air, reducing visibility to near zero. Every shadow looked like movement. Every sound was a threat. Then came the voices. They weren't human voices, not exactly. Empire soldiers began hearing fragments of their own language whispered through the trees, repeating orders or calling names. It was disorienting, breaking formation as soldiers spun in search of the source. Lieutenant Arcady, concealed in a nest of vines, smiled faintly as his voice playback device crackled to life again, perfectly mimicking an Empire officer. Confusion spread below. Soldiers aimed at one another, uncertain who was speaking. In that chaos, Arcady and his squad picked off stragglers one by one. Empire Command noticed the attrition rate rising. Casualties were mounting without a single confirmed sighting of the enemy. On board the flagship, Admiral Ryvek frowned at the feed. Explain to me how an army with plasma rifles and orbital support is losing to ghosts. Strategist Kalen's voice cut through the tense silence. Because you still believe they're hiding. They're not. They're hunting you. Back in the jungle, Vale's squad closed in on a supply column moving along a narrow riverbank. Empire soldiers moved in a tight formation, their transports laden with rations, power cells, and munitions. The column was essential for sustaining forward operations. The ambush was precise. A single shot punctured a fuel cell, igniting an explosion that rolled through the center of the convoy. Before the echoes faded, the jungle special forces were already in motion, rifles spitting suppressed fire, boots silent on the soft earth. Soldiers vanished in flashes of green and black, leaving only broken equipment behind. From his observation post high in the trees, Arcady watched the Empire retreating deeper into the jungle. They're running scared now, he said into his mic. Vale's voice came back, cold and steady. Not scared enough. Not yet. Empire morale was cracking. The once confident soldiers were now jumpy, firing at shadows, convinced every rustle meant death. Their casualty reports grew grim. Entire squads missing without distress calls. Vehicles sabotaged in the night. Comms relays destroyed. In the command center, VRYNN tried to rally his men. These humans are just soldiers and leaves. We are the Galactic Empire. We do not lose to primitives. But his words rang hollow. In the darkened canopy, Vale listened to intercepted transmissions. She could hear the edge of panic in the Empire's voices. Her squad, every member trained for this unforgiving terrain, moved silently among the branches. Every hunt was planned to perfection. Every kill calculated to send a message. The message was simple. The jungle belonged to them. The second major ambush came at dusk. Empire forces had set up a temporary camp on higher ground, ringed with automated turrets and perimeter mines. It was supposed to be secure. But the jungle special forces had been watching all day, mapping every patrol route and every blind spot. A sudden rainstorm masked their approach. The turrets glitched one by one, sensors jammed by localized interference devices. A perimeter mine detonated, not from a misstep, but from a thrown stone. Panic rippled through the camp. Before anyone could re-establish order, the attack came. Snipers in the tree-line picked off officers. Explosions took out supply caches, and silent figures in full ghillie suits swept through the chaos. By the time the rain stopped, the camp was abandoned, its survivors fleeing into the jungle without their equipment. Vale's team melted back into the foliage as quickly as they had come, leaving no trace. On the flagship, Ryvek was livid. We've lost 3 forward bases in less than a week. This is an embarrassment. Kalen's voice was calm, but cutting. It's more than embarrassment. You are bleeding. And the deeper you go, the worse it will get. In her hidden base, Captain Vorsk received the updates with quiet satisfaction. The Tundra Special Forces had done their job, drawing the Empire's focus and arrogance northward. Now, the Jungle Special Forces were dismantling them piece by piece. Arcady's voice came over the encrypted channel. How long do we keep them in the trees? Vorsk's reply was measured. Until the trees are the only place they see. Then we finish it. As night fell over the jungle, Empire soldiers huddled together, their weapons clutched tightly. The sound of insects was constant, the air thick with heat and tension. But beneath that noise was something else, something deliberate. Footsteps, slow, measured, circling. The soldiers knew they were being watched, and for the first time, they began to understand that the jungle was not their battlefield. It was their enemy, and the hunters were closing in. The jungle no longer felt like terrain to the Empire. It felt like a predator. Every tree seemed to lean inward. Every shadow looked alive. The soldiers marched slower now, each step deliberate, their black armor streaked with mud and scratches. The air was thick enough to choke, and the sounds of the rainforest, once just noise, were now signals of danger. Commander Varwinen's company trudged forward, its numbers smaller than when it entered. His eyes scanned the canopy, knowing it was useless. Keep formation, he ordered, his voice low. We move until extraction coordinates are secured. No more delays. But delays came anyway. The convoy ahead halted suddenly. A hover transport, carrying replacement power cells, refused to start. The engine had been tampered with, wiring stripped and cooling vents clogged with wet leaves. The maintenance crew swore they'd checked the systems that morning. Somehow, the sabotage had happened right under their noses. Before they could repair it, the attack came. A precise burst of suppressed rifle fire dropped the transport driver where he stood. Soldiers scattered for cover, but there was no clear direction to aim. Shadows shifted at the edge of vision. Varwinen barked into his comm for aerial drone support, but the drones circling above spun out of control and crashed into the tree line. Vale's voice crackled over her squad's private channel. Drones neutralized. They're blind again. Her team moved like whispers through the foliage, coordinated without needing to see one another. Every step had been planned, every firing angle calculated. The Empire's heavy armor was useless against attacks that came and vanished in seconds. Arcady's unit moved to cut off the rear guard. A single well-placed charge took out the last transport in line, trapping the convoy. Panic rippled through the Empire soldiers as they realized they were boxed in. From the flagship, Admiral Ryvek's frustration boiled over. Why haven't they broken through yet? Kalen didn't bother looking at him. Because you sent an army trained for open conquest into a labyrinth built to kill them. And the humans built the labyrinth. Down below, Varwinen tried to re-establish order. Hold the perimeter. Maintain discipline. But discipline was slipping. That night, the Jungle Special Forces attacked again. This time, without firing a single shot. A series of small charges detonated in the dark, targeting supply crates and communication relays. Empire soldiers woke to flames consuming their own camp. In the chaos, traps hidden just beyond the perimeter claimed more lives. By dawn, another company was gone. Varwinen's reports became more desperate. We are sustaining unsustainable losses. Every advance is met with ambush. Our men are exhausted. Morale is unstable. Unstable was an understatement. Soldiers had stopped removing their helmets at night, afraid of what might be watching them from the shadows. Whispers of the forest hunters spread through the ranks. Vale heard those whispers too. Intercepted communications revealed the Empire's fear, and her team leaned into it. They left signs, not trophies, but subtle markers. A lone Empire helmet placed neatly on a tree stump. A plasma rifle leaning against a vine, its power cell missing. No bodies, no blood. Just absence. It made the soldiers imagine the worst. Arcady's squad struck next at the river crossing. Empire engineers had rigged a pontoon bridge for armored carriers. It was meant to be secure, but when the lead vehicle rolled halfway across, an underwater charge tore it apart. The explosion sent debris and soldiers into the current, where unseen figures finished the work. By the time reinforcements arrived, the riverbank was silent. Vale regrouped with her team deep in the canopy. Her face, still concealed beneath her ghillie hood, showed no trace of satisfaction. "They're folding," Arcady reported. "They're adapting," Vale corrected. "Desperate enemies are dangerous. Don't underestimate them." Her caution proved justified. The next Empire push came with heavier equipment. Flamethrowers, shock troops, and portable sensor towers designed to sweep wide arcs of detection. The jungle lit with walls of fire, turning green into blackened ash. For the first time, the jungle special forces had to retreat from certain positions. Vale coordinated the fallback carefully, her voice calm even as flames roared nearby. "We moved to secondary nests. No losses. They think we're running. Let them." Arcady's grin was grim, running just far enough to pull them deeper. The scorched paths became choke points. The Empire pushed forward confidently, their sensors sweeping ahead. But every reading came back cluttered. Decoys left by the humans, heat signatures from hollowed logs, false trails designed to lead them into kill zones. When the Empire realized the deception, it was too late. The largest ambush yet unfolded on the edge of a ravine. VRNN's forces marched in tight formation, unaware that both sides of the canyon wall had been rigged. Charges exploded in perfect sequence, bringing down trees and rock slides that crushed the vanguard. In the confusion, Vale's snipers rained precision fire from concealed positions, picking off command officers. By the time the smoke cleared, another third of the Empire force was gone. Back on the flagship, Ryvek was pale. "We can't sustain this. The jungle campaign is..." Kalen interrupted. "The jungle campaign is lost unless you change your approach. But you won't. You believe technology wins every fight. Here, technology is a liability." In the Empire's shattered forward camp, VRYNN tried to rally his remaining officers. His voice was raw. "We regroup at the southern basin. Reinforcements are en route. We hold until then." But reinforcements would not save them. Vale's team intercepted the coordinates and prepared their largest operation yet. The basin was the last secure foothold the Empire had in the equatorial zone. Dozens of supply crates, medical stations, and power generators had been concentrated there. It was the perfect target. The attack began just before dawn. A coordinated series of explosions ripped through the basin, targeting power cores first. In seconds, the entire camp was plunged into darkness. Without power, the automated defenses failed. Arcady's team moved in from the east, sniping sentries as confusion spread. Vale's unit struck from the west, demolitions taking out fuel reserves. Empire soldiers tried to mount a defense, but the assaults came from every direction. By the time the sun rose, the basin was in ruins. Smoke curled above the treeline, visible for miles. Vale stood at the edge of the wreckage, scanning the horizon. "They'll pull back now," she said quietly. Arcady tilted his head. "And if they don't, then they'll die here," she replied. In orbit, Ryvek stared at the casualty numbers in disbelief. "We've lost more troops to a few hundred humans than we did taking 3 entire star systems." Kalen's voice was quiet, almost respectful. "You've lost more than troops. You've lost control of the battlefield. And they know it." VRNN's battered forces began their retreat, moving toward extraction points. But every step was hounded. The jungle itself seemed unwilling to let them go. The Empire had entered the jungle as conquerors. They were leaving it as survivors, those few who could still make it out. And somewhere in the canopy, unseen and silent, the jungle special forces watched them go, already planning the final blow. The retreat began at dawn, though the jungle made no distinction between day and night. The Empire's remaining forces moved with mechanical precision, every step weighed down by exhaustion and the constant knowledge that they were being watched. Armor plates were scuffed, weapons dulled, and morale shattered. They no longer marched like conquerors. They moved like prey. Commander Vierwynen led the column, his voice strained as he relayed orders. Maintain formation. No one strays. Keep your sensors scanning. The soldiers obeyed without argument. Defiance had been burned away, replaced by a shared instinct to survive. In the canopy above, Vale tracked their progress through the scope of her rifle. Her breathing was slow, steady. Arcady crouched beside her, eyes fixed on the column below. They're moving slower than expected, he whispered. They're broken, Vale replied. But not finished. Not yet. Every path the Empire took was predictable. Every extraction point had been mapped weeks in advance. The Jungle Special Forces had studied their retreat routes, anticipating choke points and natural traps. This was the final stage, and Vale intended to make it decisive. The basin extraction zone lay ahead, an open clearing on slightly elevated ground, where a fleet of Empire transports waited. Vierwynen's soldiers picked up their pace at the sight of distant metallic glints, hope quickening their steps. The air was heavy with the smell of plasma fuel, the promise of escape just within reach. Vale signaled her team. Positions. We strike when they commit. Arcady's squad moved through the undergrowth, setting charges in the soft soil. Others climbed into the high canopy, their rifles aimed at key targets. Every member of the unit knew their role. They had fought for weeks to bring the enemy here. Vierwynen raised his hand, halting the column just short of the clearing. His instincts screamed caution. The silence was unnatural, the oppressive quiet broken only by the hum of transport engines. He activated his comm. Ryvek, we're at the extraction zone, beginning final approach. Admiral Ryvek's voice came through the static. Understood. Make it fast. We've already lost too much time. Vierwynen signaled his troops forward. The first charge detonated at the edge of the clearing, tearing through a transport's fuel line. A plume of fire erupted skyward, sending soldiers scrambling for cover. Before the echo faded, sniper fire rained down from the treeline, precise and unrelenting. Arcady's voice came over the secure channel. East transport disabled. Vale's reply was calm, measured. Shift to secondary positions. Target command officers. Empire soldiers fired blindly into the foliage, their plasma bolts scorching leaves and bark, but hitting nothing. The Jungle Special Forces moved like shadows, never staying in one place long enough to be pinned down. Kalen watched from the flagship's tactical room, reading the battle feed. The red markers representing Empire units were vanishing one by one. It's over, he said quietly. Ryvek's jaw tightened. We still have troops down there. You had troops, Kalen corrected. Now you have survivors. If you're wise, you'll bring them home before you have nothing. On the ground, Vierwynen tried to rally his men. Hold your lines. Secure the perimeter. But the perimeter was collapsing. Every direction brought more precision strikes. Charges destroying supply crates, sniper rounds picking off squad leaders, silent traps claiming soldiers who strayed even a few steps. Vale moved to a new position, her ghillie suit rustling softly against wet leaves. Through her scope, she saw Vierwynen, still standing, still shouting orders despite the chaos. He was disciplined, stubborn, dangerous if left alive. She steadied her rifle. A shot cracked. Vierwynen staggered, his side armor pierced. He fell to one knee, still trying to bark commands. Vale adjusted her scope, but Arcady's voice cut in. Leave him. Let him carry the story home. Vale hesitated, then lowered her rifle. Understood. The remaining Empire troops broke formation, rushing toward the few operational transports. The Jungle Special Forces allowed them through, striking at vehicles instead of mass slaughter. The message was clear. This was not desperation. This was control. As the last transports lifted off, smoke curled above the jungle, the wreckage below a testament to what had happened. On board the flagship, Ryvek watched the transports dock, their hulls scarred and scorched. The soldiers who emerged were silent, their faces pale beneath their helmets. There was no victory in their posture, only relief at having escaped. Kalen stepped forward. You came here to teach them fear. Instead, you've learned it. Don't make the mistake of coming back. Ryvek said nothing. His silence was admission enough. Back in the jungle, the special forces dismantled their temporary positions, leaving no trace of their presence. The clearing that had been the site of a decisive battle began to vanish into the forest once more. The jungle reclaimed its ground, as if nothing had ever happened. Arkady crouched beside Vale as they packed the last of their equipment. Think they'll try again? He asked. They won't, Vale replied, her voice quiet. Not here. Not now. They'll carry this memory into every fight they have from now on. In the frozen barracks far to the north, Captain Vorsk received the encoded signal confirming mission success. She allowed herself the faintest smile. The Tundra had done its job. The jungle had finished it. Earth still stood. Weeks later, in the halls of the Galactic Empire, propaganda shifted. No longer were there broadcasts mocking Earth's Tundra warriors. Now there were warnings. The council spoke in hushed tones of the forests that hunted. Official reports described the campaign as a strategic withdrawal, but among soldiers, the truth spread faster than any political spin. Stories emerged of invisible hunters in the green, of soldiers vanishing without a sound, of an enemy that knew the terrain so well it seemed alive. The name Jungle Special Forces became a quiet curse. On Earth, life returned to a tense but steady rhythm. In the equatorial forests, Vale's unit melted back into obscurity, their faces still unseen, their names still unspoken outside their own ranks. The jungle remained their home, their weapon, and their shield. As night settled over the rainforest, Vale stood at the edge of a high ridge, looking out over the endless canopy. The air was heavy with mist, alive with the sound of insects and distant animal calls. Arkady stepped beside her, his expression as unreadable as hers beneath his hood. They'll be back someday, he said. Maybe, she replied. And when they do, we'll still be here. The jungle below swayed in the humid wind, vast and unbroken. The hunters had returned to silence, their presence hidden once more among the leaves. High above, far from Earth's surface, the Empire's ships retreated into the stars, carrying with them the memory of defeat. For now, Earth was safe, but the lesson endured. In the cold, they had waited. In the jungle, they had hunted, and the Empire had learned to fear Earth.